Everyone. It's Shabbat the Haftorah speaks about the numbers of the Jewish people at the end of the day. Vayom Yisrael b'nei Yisrael k'chol hayom asher lo yisafer asher lo yimad v'lo yisafer, that we will be as the sands at the seashore that cannot be measured and cannot be counted. So the question arises, we have the same question regarding the commitment that was given to Avraham Avinu, that your descendants will be like the stars of the heaven and the sands of the earth. We have never seen that the Jewish people are, so to speak, very numerous. In fact, the Torah itself limits us. The Torah says, Lo mirutchem, I did not choose you because you would be many. Ki atem ha'ma'at mikol ha'amim. Out of all of the nations, you will be relatively few, small number. World of over 7 billion people. So we're not even 1% of the population. So how are we to see the words of the Navi? So there's one stream that says that it's metaphoric. You know, there are no two grains of sand that are exactly alike. Therefore, they cannot be measured, they cannot be counted because of the fact that they are not the same quality. They're different. Things that are different are not measured in quantity, but they are measured in a different and other criteria. So the Jewish people, even though they will not be numerous, but they cannot be measured. And they cannot be counted 1, 2, 3, 4, because 1 is not the same as 2, and 2 is not the same as 3, 3 is not the same as 4. So that's one way that the Meforshim looked at it. The problem is that when we deal with Tanakh, or when we deal with Torah in a metaphoric way, in other words, we say that to not be taken literally, but that there's an idea or a value behind it. And if we appreciate the idea or the value, that's what the Torah wanted us. So I need not point out to you that we will soon run into enormous difficulties. Because then we can treat every mitzvah in the Torah that way. We can treat every value in the Torah in that way. So, we want to have the value of Shabbos without Shabbos, or kosher food without kosher food, and all of these ideas. So therefore, to a great extent, the Meforshim tried to shy away from this interpretation and to attempt to deal with it in a different fashion. So the Radak and others say here that at the end of days, what it means is that the population of the Jewish people will be at the height that it never was before. It never was estimated to be that great. It never was counted to be that great. But now the number will surpass that. Now, it doesn't mean that in relative quantity to the rest of the world, that will be a great number. But relative to the Jewish people, I always use as an example, at the time of Churban Bayesheni, close to 2,000 years ago. So according to Josephus, he said that there were about 6 million Jews in the Roman Empire. That there were 2.5 million, he said, in Eretz Yisrael, and 3.5 million scattered throughout the empire. But there were 6 million Jews 2,000 years ago. We don't have exact statistics, but historians estimate that there were about 12 million, 13 million Chinese in the world then. Over 2,000 years, the 12, 13 million Chinese have become 1.5 billion. Jewish people are most optimistic numbers before the Shoah were 19 million. Today, maybe it's 14, 15 million. We can't, there's no way to really count because we don't know who's a Jew anymore. And because of that, therefore, we see what the effect of the Golus is, what the effect of our history has been. That the Chinese could go from 12, 13 million to 1.5 billion, and we barely went from 6 million now to 15 million. And that's what it means, lo merubchem. You will not increase. You're going to be few in number. There's an advantage in being few in number. The advantage is that everyone counts. I mean, if there'd be 1.5 billion Jews in the world, then you wouldn't be able to get 1 million from Mincha Maariv. Because everybody would say, let the other guy go. Why should we rely on you? But the nature is that if people feel that they are relatively small in number, so then they have a drive to make up for it in other ways. That pretty much is the story of the Jewish people throughout history. So this week's Haftorah emphasizes that. It's never going to be great. That's a reverse twist on what we said was the original shot in the puzzle. Originally, we said that it was going to be so great that it couldn't be counted. Now we're going to say that it's not going to be so great, so therefore it cannot be counted because each one represents another 10, 15 Jews that are, so to speak, not here. And the Abarbanel points that out in one of his comments regarding the exile from Spain. So the Navi says, the Navi Yeshayahu says, "Hakoton yeh le'elef v'atzoyer l'goyotzu." The smallest Jew will be 1,000. The youngest will be like a great nation. So the Abarbanel says that's because it has to be. Hakoton yeh le'elef is because the other 999 are not here. So he's got to represent the whole 1,000. And everyone has to feel that mission, so to speak, within themselves. That it's not just I represent myself, but I represent something much more than myself. And that's part of the idea of Mispar B'nai Yisrael will be K'chol Hayom Asher Lo Yilad Lo Yisofer. Because whatever we are, we have everyone else with us. Those that have gone before us, everyone is there. That's why Chazal say that all the Nishomas of Klal Yisrael were by Mamad Har Sinai. So that when a Jew studies Torah or involved in Torah, so it's not only the individual Jew who is involved, everybody was involved because we're all witnesses to the same event and participants in the same event that governs the Jewish world from the beginning until today. So those are some ideas that we could take from this week's Parsha and from the Haftorah of Hosea and be strengthened by it.